It's overtime. I'm Dan Borrello. With me, guy who is my professor at St. Fisher College, longtime sports columnist, sports writers, covered the NFL, covered Major League Baseball. He's covered it all. Longtime author. How many books you up to now?
It's about 25 or 26,
25
something
books.
like
We got
that.
two of them sitting right here. Scott Pitoniak is joining us. How are you?
Dan, I'm doing great. It's great to be back with you,
too.
buddy.
I know. We used to do a talk show in town here. Some of you may have heard of it. Of course, it was never promoted.
That's right.
We had to do it all ourselves. But
That's
we're
right.
back. We're having a reunion show, so thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Dan, anytime.
You got it. Lots to get into. Of course, we're brought to you by Bill Gray's Tap Room. Of course, Batavia Downs, Thurman Thomas's 34 Rush Sports Bar. A lot of stuff to get into. We're going to get into the NFL. We're going to get into Scott's books. He's got two new ones out, including Syracuse, or Forever Orange, Syracuse University. It's a coffee table book. We're getting into that. That's right here, of course. And he's got the paperback version of Jukebox Hero, the Lou Graham biography, and, of course, some new chapters involved with that. So we're going to get to that, too. We're going to talk about yesterday in the NFL and Major League Baseball. Of course, it's the postseason. It's October, our favorite time of the year, the busiest time of year. So we're going to get into all that. And, of course, thank you for watching us on Rock Sportsnet today. Gary Sadak is playing hurt today. He's on steroids, ladies and gentlemen, for his knees. He's on anabolic steroids. But, it's funny. He's coming to work hurt, but Giancarlo Stanton's got another quad injury. He might not be able to play the rest of the postseason.
Yeah. Well, I guess they view that, that Mr. Stanton is an investment.
Yeah,
he's a big-time investment. I don't know how they view Gary or not. But he knows how to play hurt. So
Exactly.
we appreciate that.
He knows how to get into it. So let's get right into the NFL. So I call this the 10-spot bowl that happened yesterday, the Buffalo Bills 10-spot bowl, because, of course, the Bills in 2017 trade away their 10th overall pick to the Kansas City Chiefs. They go ahead and they draft Patrick Mahomes. Whoa. Everyone's like, whoa. He's a projected fourth-rounder according to all the draft nicks. And then the Texans go with the following pick, and they draft Deshaun Watson. Mahomes, of course, had that redshirt season under Andy Reid with Alex Smith playing quarterback. Last year he sets the world on fire. Of course, he's the next Dan Marino. Whereas Watson had a nice rookie year, then he gets hurt. He comes back last year, struggles, gets banged up, and then now he's starting to find his stride. Now that he has a little bit of an offensive line. Texans walk away with this victory. Are these two quarterbacks, are we going to be seeing these guys battle out like Manning and Brady used to?
I think so, Dan. I think we're seeing, the next face of the NFL. I think Mahomes is already there.
Mm-hmm.
After the year he had last year, which was, he became the second quarterback in NFL history to have 50 touchdown passes and 5,000 passing yards in the same season.
Right.
He's there. And we're seeing him on all the commercials and so forth. Watson, as you said, I was really impressed with him going back to his college days, actually.
Yes.
I was very, very impressed with him. And, like you said, the injury slowed him down last year. So, yeah, I think these two guys are the face of the future. We're always bemoaning, Dan, about the dearth of quarterbacks.
Right.
Who's going to be the next? Brady is ancient and Manning is retired and so forth. There's a really good group of young quarterbacks here, exciting quarterbacks, and we see how the game's evolving as well.
It's funny. We just got word that Soccer Sam's watching. He's a different kind of football fan. That's a different kind of football. Hey, Sam, why don't you come on the show? Tell us about your brand of football sometime. We'd love to have you on. But, it's funny. We've known Sam for a long time, and Sam's a big Steelers fan. Of course, the Steelers, they keep doing it with different kinds of quarterbacks. The quarterback of the week now that Ben Roethlisberger's been hurt. A lot of guys have been banged up. Watson's had his share of bang-ups. Last week we saw Patrick Mahomes get hurt. I'll ask you, were we too quick to anoint Patrick Mahomes just yet? Now, they've lost 2 in a row, Kansas City. I don't think yesterday was on him so much as it was the Chiefs' defense, but the formula's out there. The Colts kept Mahomes off the field, and yesterday the Texans kept Mahomes off the field. So
Right.
I think that's a testament to Mahomes, don't you?
Well, it is. But if you think that they've stopped him or solved him, I don't think so. Andy Reid obviously has to resolve these problems on defense. There's no question about it. You got to stop the run. And yeah, the best offense is a good defense, or vice versa.
Right.
In this case here, but no, I still think Mahomes is a little gimpy, but even with him being gimpy yesterday, he almost won that game. He didn't lose the game. The game was lost by that defense and stuff. I love the guy. He is maybe the most enjoyable athlete out there as far as I'm concerned, and what he can do. Again, he's a little gimpy right now, but this guy has got Hall of Fame written all over him if he doesn't suffer some catastrophic injury.
Pro Football Focus has become that go-to site now where they have scouts on staff and they grade every play. And they got a lot of crap for grading him the 6th best quarterback in the NFL a couple of weeks ago. But then the last couple of weeks, he struggled a little bit. And I think because they wait protecting the football is a huge weight. It's like when you used to like grade us in school. If we missed an apostrophe or a punctuation, you said, "Hey, at Syracuse, they used to drop us a letter grade. You can't have that." So that's how much they weight the turnover part. I think he tries too hard sometimes. I think he tries to play out of his shoes to try to like win his. He tries to get like 21 points at once. And if he just slowed down with his mechanics, I think he could be among the greatest of all time by the time his career's over.
Yeah, and again, it's not a fatal flaw. And the thing I like about him is he throws a great ball.
Does.
And and we'll get into talking about Josh Allen and where he fits into things here and stuff, I'm sure, down the road. But the thing, there's just certain things you can't teach. And I mean, I look at like Russell Wilson, who right now I think is the MVP of this league, throws a great ball. Mahomes throws a great ball, an accurate throw. It's not just having the bazooka strong arm, which obviously Josh Allen has. So I mean, again, is he pressing a little bit? He's probably pressing also because he's looking. The defense is struggling. So hey, I got to go out there and I got to put 37 up or whatever in order to win the football game. And that can be dangerous when you do try to. It's kind of like, I'm going to go hit the 7-run homer, right? Just doesn't happen.
Like you could tell that Mahomes is kind of pressing because he has to keep the score going because his defense can't hold on. And I'm wondering if we were too quick. I wasn't, but I wonder. To me, that you have to take the trophy out of the Patriots' cold dead hands, which we'll get to a little later on. But I think a lot of people were really quick to make the Chiefs the next Patriots. And you still need a top 10 defense, or at least a defense that can take the ball away. And the Chiefs haven't done either of those things right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's their fatal flaw, their Achilles heel at this point. The other reason why, like, I wasn't ready to say the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl this year, I didn't pick them to do that, is because of their coach. Now, I think Andy Reid is a tremendous offensive mind. There's no question about it. And he's a tremendous quarterbacks coach. Just look at the track record, who he's worked with and developed and so forth. He's not a good game coach.
No.
Particularly, as the people in Philly will tell you, particularly toward the end of the game at crunch time and stuff, he gets out-coached, he gets out-maneuvered, he doesn't know how to use timeouts, he just panics, he chokes, toward the end. So that's another thing I think, Andy Reid's got something to prove at some point here to finally win the big game, to show that, you can coach toward the end of the game when games are decided, particularly in this league where so many games are close.
Like, remember when Bill Cowher was the next Marty Schottenheimer, but then he finally won a Super Bowl, and then he rode off into the sunset a year later. He didn't make the playoffs the following year. People forget that, but he had that Super Bowl, so nobody remembers. Andy Reid still needs to get that championship, and until then, he's going to have that cloud hanging over him. So, I think, we might be a little bit too quick to anoint the Chiefs just yet, but it is only October. I mean, like a year ago, everybody thought that the Tennessee Titans and Washington were the two hottest teams in the NFL. Look where they are right now. So it is only October. Now, I bring this up as the 10-spot bowl with the Buffalo Bills. Let's bring it back to that day 3 drafts ago. You had Mahomes sitting there, which I don't think anybody had their eyes on in this area, but I think Watson was there. Looking back, I can't say that I wish the Bills had taken Mahomes, because I think things would have been a lot different if the Bills had taken him and thrown him into the fire right away. I think he needed Andy Reid to kind of harness him. But I think Watson could have been the pick there. Now, again, hindsight's 20/20. I wasn't saying the Bills could have done that, but would that have been the more logical choice looking back?
Yeah, probably. And you make a good point about Mahomes. Like, the great thing about Patrick is he walked into an ideal situation.
Right.
He didn't have to play right away. They had Alex Smith. Alex Smith also deserves a lot of credit for being a great mentor, in addition to being, a solid quarterback, the one that would tide you over to the future, be the bridge quarterback, so to speak there. And don't forget, Mahomes also walked into a place where you had a lot of offensive weapons.
Yes.
So that helps. But, so would he have, he certainly would have taken his licks with the Bills. There's no question about it. But I still think he would have been great. I still think talent, eventually rises to the top.
Yes.
Now, he walked into the perfect storm there. There's no question. Now, Watson is an intriguing thing. He would have gone through the same problems. Let's not forget. I mean, look at that offensive line that was in front of Josh Allen last year.
Yeah.
So if you got a young quarterback walking into that, that's a recipe for disaster, right? I mean, it'll get you shell-shocked behind that offensive line. They've obviously addressed a lot of that this year. So, we love hindsight, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was leaning a little bit towards Mahomes, and
Okay.
But I knew when Kansas City traded up, everybody knew, right?
Yeah.
That Andy Reid was high on this kid.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
sitting there going, I
Yeah.
got my guy.
Yeah, we'll go up there, and the Bills made out okay.
They did. They got Trey White, and they
right.
eventually landed Josh Allen, and the jury's still out.
Yeah.
But it's not like they walked away with nothing, but their eyes were on 2018, whereas Andy Reid's like, hey, look, if I could sneak this kid in now and give him
Right.
a year to redshirt,
Yeah.
that would work. And Bill O'Brien, meanwhile, is desperate at this point. I don't
Yes.
think Brian Game wasn't the GM. I forgot who the GM was then. It may have been I forgot who it was, but at the time they needed a quarterback. They were in quarterback purgatory, as Doug
Right.
Whaley called it. And it's funny, Doug Whaley reportedly wanted Deshaun Watson, but that was Sean McDermott's draft. He was running the show,
Right.
and everybody else was giving their pink slips on Monday.
Right, and let's look at credibility at that point too.
Right.
This is a guy who drafted who at quarterback before?
Right, E.J. Manuel.
E.J. Manuel, right.
Eric Manuel.
Yes, we're trying to forget about that. But so are you going to trust him with quarterbacks, choosing quarterbacks at that point? I'm not, and especially a young coach who's starting out. And like you said, I will give McDermott credit. Like he came in with a vision. And he stuck to it.
Yes.
And it took some criticism and so forth for
The
it. but
process.
and it's playing out rather nicely for him right now.
Now, we're going to be talking more about quarterbacks in a second. Let's go to New York yesterday. Sam Darnold, he's over mononucleosis. He goes in and he beats the guy who bet on himself, Dak Prescott, yesterday. Even though Prescott was very close, a 2-point conversion away from tying the game and sticking it to Greg Williams, which we Bills fans love to do, but that didn't happen. So now all of a sudden, here come the Jets. Now I'm not saying they're going to be a playoff team, but now you got to worry about these guys if Sam Darnold's going to actually emerge as the quarterback. Now he is known to have up and down games, but this is the first time we're seeing Sam Darnold now in his second season. The first game he actually had mono and he played against the Bills.
Yes. Yeah.
So now we're getting a real look at Sam Darnold. Everybody else we've gotten to see, we haven't really seen Sam Darnold in his second season yet. What do you expect from him?
I think he's going to be a very, very good quarterback. I really think the Jets have finally got it right. For the first time since Joe Namath or whatever. I mean, they've had a couple decent guys in there, but for the most part, they've had the revolving door, just as the Bills have had. I like Darnold. He had an up and down career in college and so forth. That doesn't always translate to the pros, and and they've got some solid guys there. Like Adams is a beast on defense for them. I mean, that guy is a playmaker. He's all over the place and stuff. So they're finally getting some parts there, and I'm going to be intrigued to see with Adam Gase, Dan, because he's got the rep of being this really great offensive mind. But look what he had to work with.
Right.
He's got Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
And
he got the most out of him, Miami. He got the most out of him. Yeah.
He did. But that was a losing proposition.
Right.
So, and we talk about like the culture, changing the culture in Buffalo. Well, it's the same like in New York, and it's the same in Miami, and it's the same any place else where you've had like habitual losing teams and stuff. It does. You don't just snap your fingers.
Right.
It really is a process. I hate to use that word.
I know
but it's been hammered.
I get it.
Yeah. But so are they going to make a run this year? No. But I think they're going to be a much more competitive team, and that means that this is not just necessarily a gimme win, at the end of the season when they have to play them in Orchard Park.
They're going to stir the pot in the AFC, and I think Sam Darnold's going to be the big reason why. Now, we're going to get back to those guys in a second. I want to talk about Dak Prescott. Bet on himself. These are my two favorite quarterbacks in the NFL playing yesterday. Not because I love Dak's ability. I think he can win. I really do. I think that we'll get to why later on. But he bet on himself, and so far his stock has fallen the last 3 weeks after it was rising the first 3 weeks. You look at Dallas as a whole, I'm not sure that it's panic time, but I think you ought to be concerned if you're a Cowboys fan right now, given what's going on.
Yeah, I think, you got to look at the coach after a while, right?
Coach Clapp?
Yeah.
Coach Clapper?
Yeah. Yeah.
You see he was trying to high-five his kids coming off and they wouldn't
Yeah.
even shake his hand with 3.5 minutes to go in the game.
Yeah.
Coming off the field.
Yeah. So I think there's some coaching issues there. And, of course, you always have an issue when Jerry Jones is the guy in that he's really the coach in a lot of respects. The GM, the coach, he wants a yes man, for the Cowboys and stuff. And if he really was concerned with the talent that he has, he really needs to get a good coach. Now, again, a good coach is not going to necessarily come in there knowing that you got this meddlesome owner all the time and stuff. So, it's an intriguing situation. There's a lot of talent there.
Yes.
There's a lot of talent on that roster.
I have a theory, and it's going to impact the It's my cockamamie theory of the year. I'm good for one. I had the Bill Belichick going to the Giants after that article came out on ESPN a couple of years ago. That did not happen, okay? But it wasn't a stretch. That's going to impact, I think, could impact the Browns and the Dallas Cowboys. We'll get to that later in the show. But when we get back here, I'm going to ask my friend here, the sports columnist from the Rochester Business Journal, about his thoughts on Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Bye week, they're at 4-1. They get the hapless Dolphins coming to town, followed by Philadelphia, who got crushed in Minnesota yesterday. I'm going to get my friend Scott's thoughts on Josh Allen, his progress, this process with this team, and more coming back, and compare him to the other 4 quarterbacks from that draft class. We're going to do that coming back next. Of course, this is all brought to you by Lattimore Physical Therapy. Lattimore currently offers 25 clinics throughout Rochester, including nearby locations in North Chi-Line Gates. More than 50 certified physical therapists have experience in treating most conditions and sports injuries. They treated Gary. He's walking great. In most cases, they're able to offer initial consultations within 24 hours for your convenience. LattimorePT.com. This is Overtime. Talking Bills next right here on Rock Sports Network.
When I sprained my left knee, they did so much to help me at
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
With 20 locations throughout Monroe and Livingston County, pain relief is never more than minutes away. Same-day appointments available. Most insurance accepted. Call 1-888-PT-ROCHS.
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
Hi, I'm Zach Ralph. We've been selling cars for more than 80 years. We're family-owned, family-run, 3 generations strong.
Come see the 2020 Hondas. There's something for every lifestyle.
Whatever you're looking for in your next car, you'll find it at Ralph Honda.
Hi, my name is Henry, and I want to welcome you to Batavia Downs Gaming. We want you to love it, not just like it here. We went to our customers and asked them what we can do better. You said you wanted a hotel, so we built one. More and better food. We did that too. A separate place to smoke and play? We even did that. Batavia Downs Gaming and Hotel is the right size with the right people in the right location. Batavia Downs Gaming. Come here to dine, stay, and play.
Only $7.99 for a Bill Gray's Great Plate every Tuesday.
And we're back here on Overtime, of course, brought to you by Bill Gray's. Every Tuesday is Great Plate Tuesday at Bill Gray's. If you're watching this on Tuesday, that's today. If you're watching it live, that's tomorrow. $7.99 for 2 Bill Gray's cheeseburgers on top of home fries, max out, loaded with all the toppings you could ask for, including Bill Gray's meat hot sauce. Great Plate Tuesday, every Tuesday. You know the drill. Gimme, 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 Bill Gray's. Let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. 4-1, Scott.
Yeah.
When you and I did a show, they weren't 4-1.
No,
not at all.
And they're a legitimate 4-1, although people will say they're illegitimate because given the schedule. But hey, they didn't. It's not their fault.
Right.
They've done what they needed to do for the most part. I'm impressed. I really am. It seems like this vision is finally being realized. And they went through some tough times, last year and stuff, but they stuck with it.
Right.
And so their defense is a top 5, top 3 defense. It's legit. Just ask Tom Brady. They kicked the crap out of him and made him look very mortal. They've got some more tools now on offense, and I'm seeing some progress from number 17.
I like how you worded a top 5 defense because it's a range week to week. Because not everybody can play everybody every week, but they are a top 5 defense. Yeah. The one thing they haven't done yet, which they were able to do in that playoff season, was take the ball away. I think that will come with time. But like if you remember, they took the ball away quite a bit against Oakland, against Denver, and against Atlanta, and those games helped propel them into the playoffs.
Right.
Now you have a situation where it was Tyrod Taylor who was the quarterback at the time, and he really couldn't move the football, so Stephen Hauschka had his big leg. Now you have Josh Allen as your quarterback, and Josh Allen has been solid when he's protecting the football. Not great, but he's been okay, but the biggest problem is that he doesn't always protect the football, and that's been the big bugaboo. They could very easily be 1-4 because of Josh Allen, too.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the analytics, Dan, there's no question that, there have been several balls that could have been picked. And they really break it down. Like, it isn't just an incompletion. It's like, how many potential turnovers did he have? And it's still a problem. There's no question. It's still a problem. But there are positives that I've seen, and among them is I've seen times where he's gone through his progressions, and looking for the secondary and tertiary receiver and stuff, where he just doesn't take off and run. And the thing I'm most impressed about with him is that if you look at the analytics, he's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL in fourth quarter production. And you got to love that.
Right.
Because look at the formula you have.
They
here.
finished.
Yeah, they finished. And look at the formula, though. You've got a defense that's capable of keeping you in games, even when you turn the ball over 4 times.
Right.
Now,
right.
that's not going to happen against, the Chiefs, or if you did that against the Patriots 4 times or whatever, you're going to pay for it. But, so it's a good formula where defense keeps you in the game, and you got a kid. You're going ahead with the growing pains. You're going to live with some of these things, and yet know that he has the confidence, the supreme confidence in his ability to lead this team to victory when it counts the most in the fourth quarter.
I just hope that he just harnesses that confidence, because he is a bit of a cowboy, and he just resorts back to I'm going to roll to my right and just try to drill the ball.
Right.
And Patrick Mahomes has been able to do that, but Josh Allen hasn't, and it's led to problems.
Right.
It led to Cincinnati coming back and almost beating them. It basically gave the Patriots the game. You want to talk about? We talked when we did a show about the Patriots being the measuring stick game every year. I think this was the closest they've come without beating them to be saying, hey, you know what, we're here and we're for real this year. But it was those turnovers that cost them the game.
Yeah, because when you look at it, when you break it down, McDermott as a head coach versus Brady is very good.
Yes.
I mean, it's something like he has 3 touchdown passes and now 5 picks, and his quarterback passer rating is probably about 20 to 30 points below his career average. So they have a formula. They cause him a lot of problems, more so than any other defense and stuff. But I agree with you. The thing that concerns me about Josh, or any athlete really, Dan, is when you're under duress, you usually revert to who you are. Now you can learn, you can tweak this and tweak that, but when push comes to shove, no matter what you're doing in life, you often will react to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm hoping that that's not a fatal flaw with him. And the other thing that concerns me is, again, like you say, he's intrepid, he's fearless and stuff, but that's dangerous too. You can get hurt. And we talk about the old, the best ability is availability.
Yes.
And so he's had some injury issues here. Now, again, you can talk about a dirty hit or whatever, in the Patriots game, but the problem is he put himself out there.
Yes.
And he's a big, strong guy. He's a great athlete. There's no question about it. But, we're seeing a quarterback down in Carolina who's bigger and stronger and whatever, and now they're talking about he could possibly be traded.
Yeah, we're not talking about Kyle Allen.
Yeah.
We're talking about Cam Newton, the guy who often gets who everybody likes to, not everybody, but a lot of people like to compare Josh Allen to Cam Newton. Same size, great arm strength, great athleticism, but they took a lot of hits. And Cam Newton hasn't been the same since that Super Bowl. He just hasn't. Right. He's taken a lot of hits, and now they're talking about this is it for Cam Newton. Kyle Allen stepped in. He's played good football this year. The team responds to him better.
They're in no hurry for Cam to come back.
No, Cam, get better.
Yeah.
Relax. Take your time.
Yeah.
And you don't want Josh Allen, who's an investment at this point, to, if he's going to be the guy, and they expect him to be, if they want him to be Brett Favre, they drafted him 7th overall.
Right.
He's got to look, take care of himself. Now, that one play against the Patriots where he got knocked out, he couldn't slide. He was a yard short. But he puts himself in those positions all the time.
Right. He's just, and I don't want to see, last year I think I figured it out, he averaged 8 or 9 carries a game. That's too many.
Yeah.
Now, again, it should be part of your offense. And there's risk involved with any time you take the field. We all know that. But again, I want to see a little bit more of more discretion there. And like you say, there are some plays, some of these interceptions, some of these throws. It's again, you're going what? Why?
Right.
You're backpedaling. And
you lose your mechanics.
And you throw it in the 14th row.
Right.
Okay, and that, the Cincinnati game is a classic example of a game you're totally in control. You're totally. So the other thing with
could have been 4 touchdowns at the half.
Right. Right. And what you need to, as a young quarterback, also know is you've got to know the context.
Yes.
Where am I in a game here? So is this the time to do this or not?
Live to die another down. Where am I on the field?
Right.
The plus side, the
Right.
minus side.
Right.
He literally lured the Bengals back into that football game.
Now, again, he's young. there's plenty of time to continue to work, and he's going to get more weapons, and there's been better protection this year and that sort of thing. But and you got to realize, like, I got a pretty good defense here. I don't want to jeopardize things. I still want to be aggressive. I still need to make plays. But I have to know where I am in the game, where my team is in the game.
This is his second NFL season. He's just started out against Tennessee, and he played within himself, but he did make that one fatal mistake, of course, which led to 7 Tennessee points. Now, this team is very close to being 1-4. You saw Tennessee get shellacked in Denver. Denver's highly underrated. They're 2 field goals away from being a 4-2 team right now. They have a defense. This Bills team has a defense, too. We mentioned it earlier. Sean McDermott's a big defensive guy. They got the parts. Let's talk about Sean McDermott and his coaching and how he works with Brandon Beane. I've always had a theory that Beane works for McDermott, not the other way around.
I think that's accurate. I think, think about it. Who came first?
Right, McDermott did.
McDermott came first, and so
he plucks his GM out of his old team.
Yeah, he's going to pick his guy, a guy that he can work with, and there's nothing wrong with that. These things. There's others who believe the formula should be you find the real experienced, architect, and then he hires the coach he works with. But I mean, these guys seem to know each other, know what each other wants. And Marv Levy talked a lot about that, like that there was a prototypical Buffalo Bill player that he was looking for.
Right.
And Bill Polian knew about that. And the scouting staff, this is who we look for to fit what we want.
There was no turf. They all had a consensus.
Right. And I think you're seeing that here. That these guys are working well together. Again, there's a vision, there's the process, and they're sticking to it. And I mean, it's amazing, Dan, when you think about it. The turnover on this roster since the the Rex Ryan, Doug Whaley debacle.
Yes.
I mean, there's 4 or 5 guys left.
Not many.
Not
many at
from
all.
that time, and very few of them were productive. Obviously, that was part of it. It wasn't going to be easy, and they fluked into a playoff appearance. I don't think that that McBean were planning on that at that point, but. So far so good.
They took their lumps in the cap last year. That was by design. Now they have a lot of space. They're able to maneuver. They can work. They've made their trades. And I think that there might be another trade coming up before the deadline.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see. I still want to see a wide receiver. Give him a target, a really good target.
Which would make John Brown and Cole Beasley and now Duke Williams, everybody's favorite, that much better.
Right.
Because now you have Allen has more options. Plus you got Devin Singletary coming back off the bench or off the injured list or whatever. Right. He's been out. There's no injured list. There's injury reserve, which means you're pretty much done for the season. But now, you're starting to see things. The only thing about McDermott, and you mentioned it with Andy Reid, his in-game coaching sometimes baffles me.
Yeah. Well, he's a young head coach too.
Yeah.
Like just as we talk about Josh being a young quarterback. There's a learning process still going on here with McDermott as well. And, there are coaches that just never become good game coaches.
Right.
Andy Reid's still dealing with these issues, and he's a Hall of Fame coach as far as I'm concerned. But, even if he doesn't, get the Super Bowl trophy or whatever, just for his body of work and the number of victories and this and that. But, so there's no guarantee that, McDermott is going to become this great, game coach. I think he tends towards conservative.
Yes.
And going
challenges sometimes are suspect.
Yeah. But going back to we were talking about, Mahomes and would he have been a good fit for the Bills and so forth. Well, I still think you have to be aggressive, and I still tend to like offensive-minded coaches.
Mm-hmm.
But defense can still win, and we saw perfect case of that in last year's Super Bowl, 13-3.
Right.
And again, I think the formula for the Patriots is going to be if they're going to win, their defense is going to win. It's interesting how like the circle of life.
I was just going to bring this up. You talked about this a few years ago. Eventually, like the league's going to come back to running the football and playing defense. You brought this up in 2014.
Yeah, because they catch up.
Right.
They get wise to what you're doing.
Right.
And every sport goes through cycles and so forth. And so
Scott goes, mark my words, Danny, mark my words. And he was right. Now, it's like 5 years.
Yeah, one of about 15 I got right there. So we won't even get into my picking games or whatever. But
I got killed yesterday. Go ahead.
Yeah. But it's interesting when you look at this dynasty of the Patriots, and in the early part of it, they were a defensive team.
Yes.
Brady kind of went along for the ride early on, and
He
then,
did.
And then boom, he became the guy, and now they've kind of remade, which again I think speaks to the genius of the guy that Bills fans love to hate, Bill Belichick. He adapts. He really does. And so look at their team now. I mean, I think Brady certainly has shown signs of decline. Is he done? No. I'm not going there. He hasn't fallen off the cliff, but he's not the same quarterback. I mean, you see some of the throws, and he's no different than any quarterback who's ever played this game. Like, if you pressure him and you hit him, he's not going to do well.
Right.
But again, I'm not saying he's done.
No.
Okay, but he's not the same quarterback. There's a slow decline that we're seeing here.
But I don't think he's Peyton Manning in Peyton Manning's final year and a half either.
No.
I think that's what some people are trying to bet on. I'm going to get to more of that in a moment. Now, we mentioned quarterbacks, and we mentioned Sam Darnold earlier, and, of course, we're going to get to Baker Mayfield in a little bit. Of the 5 quarterbacks taken in Allen's class, you had Baker go first, then Darnold, then Allen, and then Lamar, and you have Lamar Jackson and Josh Rosen. Who would you say is at the top of the class right now? I think we could put Rosen at the bottom I mean, he just had some bad luck, and he's just not playing well.
He's had terrible luck. That guy has no chance. The two situations he's walked in.
No, he's going to start against the Bills on Sunday, too. They've come out and said that. Yeah,
they
Fitz
put him back out there?
It's not going to be Fitz. It's going to be Rosen. So, but, how would you rank them in order, right now, what you think? Because I would go Darnold, Baker. I'm sorry, I would go Darnold, Jackson, Baker, Allen. I have to go in that order.
Yeah,
I have to put Allen at the bottom. I'm sorry, folks. I have to.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you, on that. I'm not one of these people who are giving up on Mayfield right now. I mean, they're having some struggles, and I think Cleveland is an immensely talented team, but maybe we got a year ahead of ourselves here on them. And I still think that Baker Mayfield, we talk about putting the ball in the perfect window. He's still very good at that. I think the bigger issue, like with the Browns and with him right now, is perhaps the coach.
Yes, we're gonna.
I mean, Dan, it's like if I've spent my life driving jalopies, with 200,000 miles on the odometer, and you give me the keys to the Maserati, I may not be doing a good job with it. It's
a lot of power.
Yeah, a lot of power.
Right.
And I may be getting some dings here and there and some fender benders for you. But so I still don't know if that was the right hire. Kitchens, I'm beginning to wonder, because there's a lot of talent. There's no question. There's a lot of talent. And and guys do regress. They have sophomore slumps and stuff. And but for people saying Mayfield, I told you he's so good. But, stop.
Let's pump the brakes.
Yeah,
on all 4 of these guys. Let's pump the
yeah,
brakes.
It's too early. I'll tell you, the guy I'm surprised about is Jackson.
He's been great this year.
Yeah, and it's interesting. They were determined, Dan, that we're running the ball less. We're going to run the ball. He's going to run less than he did before, and he's running just as much.
Yesterday, I think it was the first regular season game. Colin Kaepernick had the first game ever, but, I mean, it was like the first game where a passer threw for over 200 yards and ran for another 150 or something like that yesterday, and he did that in a victory.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing a little bit of the evolution of the game there in that they're going to go with the dual threat guys now. This is not Wildcat City here. There's a guy who can throw the ball as well. But they're not going to take that totally away from him, just as it would be foolish for Brian Dable to take away, the legs of Josh Allen. You got to have some runs in there that are planned, because he can kill you. He's a great athlete. He can run. Utilize it. So I think I would tend to agree with your ranking of them. The way it unfolds now, and of course, it's fluid. It can change. We'll see how Darnold goes next. If he continues to build upon what we saw against against the Cowboys. And the thing about Darnold too, that he's going to have to deal with that the other guys don't have to. New York.
Right. Yeah.
And the ghosts of Joe Namath, and
still haunting.
Yeah,
the
Richard Todd and Vinny Testaverde, and on and on and on.
So we're going to take a little break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this book right here that Scott wrote, Forever Orange, Syracuse University, coffee table book. We're going to talk about that. And this book, the paperback version of Jukebox Hero for Rochester's own Lou Graham. We're going to get to both coming up. We've got a couple new chapters in here, some new stories. We're going to talk about those coming up next. We'll also get into baseball, what happened last night with the Yanks, and looking ahead to the LCS and both the American League and National League. That's all coming back to you here. This, of course, brought to you by Bob Johnson Chevrolet. Bob Johnson's goal to give you the best deal on the best new or used vehicle possible. If you're not sure what you're looking for in a new car, truck, or SUV, stop by and talk with their expert sales team, and they'll help you figure out which model fits your needs and requirements best. Bob Johnson Chevrolet, Ridge Road West in Greece. You're listening to, you're watching Overtime. This is Scott Pitoniak. I'm Dan Borrello, and we'll be right back on Rock Sports Network.
Only $7.99 for a Bill Gray's Great Plate every Tuesday.
Hi, my name is Henry, and I want to welcome you to Batavia Downs Gaming. We want you to love it, not just like it here. We went to our customers and asked them what we can do better. You said you wanted a hotel, so we built one. More and better food, we did that too. A separate place to smoke and play, we even did that. Batavia Downs Gaming and Hotel is the right size with the right people in the right location. Batavia Downs Gaming. Come here to dine, stay, and play.
Hi, I'm Steve Ralph. We've been selling cars for more than 80 years. Our best values are available right now at Ralph Honda.
Come see the 2020 Hondas. There's something for every lifestyle.
Whatever you're looking for in your next car, you'll find it at Ralph Honda.
Daddy had surgery and his pain was put at ease.
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
Coming back right here on Rock Sports Network. This is Overtime. I'm Dan Borrello. This is my guest co-host this week, Scott Pitoniak. We used to do a show together. Here's my professor at St. John Fisher, longtime Democratic Chronicle sports columnist, now the columnist for the sports columnist, been for a few years for the Rochester Business Journal. He's got two books here, number 24 and 25 on the list. Or actually, this was 22 and this is 25. Yeah, because like this is you're adding to this one.
Right.
So let's put the first one. Let's talk about Forever Orange, Syracuse University. And I know the guys from the Ozone want to get their hands on this. So let's talk a little bit about this book. How did the university came to you to ask you to do this, right?
Well, no, we actually approached a friend, my co-author, Rick Burton's a professor at Syracuse. We had worked on a couple of other projects, and we're both alums, going way back to the 1970s, late 1970s, back at SU. And we knew the 150th year, Dan, was coming up, in 2020, the sesquicentennial. So about 4 years ago, we approached them about hey, your 150th anniversary is coming up. This would be a good time to maybe do a definitive history. And so they agreed, and we went at it. And again, there's a sports chapter in here, and obviously sports is a huge part of Syracuse's identity and history. But there's so much more. The things that I really were intrigued about were the NASA connection, 4 astronauts, including, Eileen Collins, who wrote the foreword to the book, the first female pilot of the space shuttle, and F. Story Musgrave, who fixed the Hubble telescope, saved us billions and billions of dollars, and the head of NASA was a Syracuse alum as well. And there's just so many incredible people, great writers who went there, scientists, Robert Jarvik, who invented the artificial heart, and things like that. So there's extraordinary people and the people who appeared there. The Born to Run, I know you're a big Springsteen guy. Well, the Born to Run cover was shot by a Syracuse alum, Eric Miola. And he cleared the rights for us. He talked to the boss's people, and
Scott, you can use my book.
Yeah, go right ahead. And so we ran it in there, because we've got a thing, Syracuse and pop culture, and that fit in perfectly there. So there's just so many world-changing people that I encountered in doing the book in all different fields and walks of life, and I didn't even get into the sportscaster and of course the great litany of people that came through, starting, Marty Glickman started the whole thing, and then, of course, the Costases and the Mike Tiricos and the Dick Stocktons and Sean McDonoughs and on and on and on. They're all over the place.
Well, that's awesome. Now, it started in March of 1870, 4 years after the end of the Civil War, 5 years after the end of the Civil War. And how much was tuition when they started? $20 a semester?
$20 a semester and 40 for a year. Yeah, it was, and there were 41 students, including 7 female students in the first class. It was the first co-educational college in New York State, one of the first in the country. Yeah, so it's it's a little bit bigger now and a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, it is. Now, where can you get the book?
You can get the book on Amazon.com. You can, if you go to Barnes and Noble, you can get it there. You can go to SyracuseUniversityPress.org. It's available, and and it's such a big book that you can get some legs and turn it into a little coffee
table. Literally
yeah.
a coffee table book that can turn into a coffee table. Absolutely. I know Andre Fontenot is like drooling over this thing in the other room right now. And, of course, as I've told you, Scott, my favorite sport is rock and roll. And Jukebox Hero, we're back. It's the paperback version, and there's some new stuff in it. What did you learn the second time around with Lou Gramm?
Well, the thing is, the hardcover, Dan, came out like 2013, so an awful lot has happened to Lou in the 6 years since the book came out. There was obviously he and Mick Jones from Foreigner were inducted in the Songwriters Hall of Fame, which is an incredibly prestigious honor because it goes back to Francis Scott Key,
right?
Writing the Star Spangled Banner and all sorts of genres and so forth. But there's the reconciliation with Mick Jones and Foreigner, and Lou had a baby daughter since then, Luciana. There's just so many new things that have happened. He disbanded his band. He retired his band, and is hoping to come out with some new music along the way as well. So there's an awful lot, and so we added like a pretty thick chapter, probably about 30 additional pages, and I'm sure Lou fans will enjoy reading.
Now, did you guys ever talk about so he gets back together with Foreigner, and of course, they replaced Lou with Kelly Hansen.
Right.
How was that for Lou to have to go in there? Because you got to have a little apprehension on both sides going into this for the first time.
Well, they had a couple of these reunion concerts where then and now, and they had all like the original members performing on stage with the current group. And Lou talked about, like I said, well, how did you feel going in there? And he goes, I was a little apprehensive because you didn't know how Kelly Hansen, is he going to be like, I am the voice of Foreigner, when really we all know that Lou was the voice of Foreigner and the voice of rock and roll in the 70s and 80s, and also a tremendous songwriter. Co-wrote many of these hits that are still widely played throughout the world, on radio stations and on the internet and so forth. So. Lou said that it turned out well. He said that Kelly Hansen was deferential, showed him a tremendous amount of respect, told him that I've always admired your voice, I admire your music, and so I think Kelly handled it well and kind of diffused what could have been an extremely awkward and difficult situation.
Right. That is pretty cool. Now, one of my favorite stories from this book, and it was in the hardcover version, was when Lou snuck out for a Rolling Stones concert. Can you shed a little light on that?
Yeah, he was a teenager, and there was a time, I believe it was 1965, that the Stones were making their tour, and they were stopping at the then War Memorial here in Rochester. Now, they were the bad boys of rock and roll compared to the Beatles, okay, and to the point where Ed Sullivan. And the Ed Sullivan Show did not want them on ever again.
Right.
And there were certain towns that they were banned from, like that they were regarded as these criminals, and that they didn't want them coming and creating a riot. So anyway, Lou has tickets to go there, right? And so he mentions it to his parents, and his parents said, "Absolutely not. You're not going." So Lou's thinking about it, and so. He's upstairs, and he fixes his hair. He's got everything, and he goes bolting down the stairs, runs through the screen door, slams and stuff, and then all of a sudden his father comes out, and you can hear his father, Louis, and there Lou's not looking back.
Right,
he's running, and he's going to go hitchhike, and he was living in Gates at the time, and caught a ride down to the War Memorial. Now this wound up being a famous, or rather an infamous concert,
right?
Because the Stones lived up to their bad boy reputation to the point where the crowd is like pushing against the front of the stage, and people are getting crushed to the point where they're like throwing people up onto the stage, and Mick's doing all his gyrations up there, and the police chief is not pleased with the whole situation, and literally goes out and like yanks the mic away, fights the mic away from Mick Jagger.
Right.
And this concert's over with and stuff like that. And Keith Richards was not real pleased, and they're thinking like Rochester's this little hick town,
right?
whatever. And so, Lou goes to a party after this shortened concert and so forth with his girlfriend and whatever. And he's at this party, and lo and behold, like he looks, and all of a sudden it's like 3 o'clock in the morning, and he gets a taxi cab. And he doesn't have enough money, so like all his friends are like pooling together their loose change or whatever. Gets there, and he can see the meter going, and it surpassed the amount of money that he's got in his pocket. And the guy pulls into his driveway, and he goes like, "Oh, this is all I have," And the taxi cab driver's not real pleased, but just tells him to get the heck out of the car or whatever. Well, all right, so it's 3:30 in the morning or whatever, and Lucy's like, the house is all dark. So he goes, all right, So, like, he opens the door, locks the door, and think, okay, like, I'm going to sneak upstairs to my room. And the minute he gets in, click, the light goes on, and his father's sitting there. And his father, reads him the riot act and so forth, and said to him, like, you are to come home immediately after school every day for a month. Okay, you come right home, straight home. So Lou told me he gets up to his room and stuff, and he goes, "Yeah!"
Like he got
off fairly lightly
right.
for the crime,
That's awesome. So this is going to be available at Barnes & Noble, I'm presuming?
Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. It's all out there. Yeah.
So the with the brand new chapter, Jukebox Hero, Lou Graham story, and of course, Forever Orange, Syracuse University. It's available, of course, at Barnes & Noble. It's Syracuse University Press. Both great books, authored by Scott Pitoniak right here. Get your hands on them while you can. I know Andre's out there sitting there waiting to get his hands on this big bad boy right here. So he's probably the only one who can pick it up between
That's
the three
right.
of us.
Well, you can get a nice little workout. It's
Yeah,
5.5 pounds.
Is it 5.5 pounds? Yeah, I can feel it in my hands. So that's great. Thank you, Scott. When we come back, of course, we're going to talk some baseball. Yanks and Astros tied at 1. Nats up on the Cardinals 2-0. Oh, everybody says Bill Belichick cheats. Did we not forget what happened to St. Louis a couple of years ago? We'll get into that next right here. This is Overtime. Of course, this is brought to you by Lattimore Physical Therapy. At Lattimore, their physical therapists enjoy the work they do and bring a positive attitude to their patients' therapy experience. They want their patients' therapy to be something to look forward to each and every session. I mean, you're getting better, right? If patients tell their friends and family about their success at Lattimore, they know they've done their job. LattimorePT.com. This is Scott Pitoniak. I'm Dan Borrello, and you're watching Overtime here on Rock Sports Network.
Bill Gray's newest tap room at the Port of Rochester is now open.
Hi, I'm Zach Ralph. We've been selling cars for more than 80 years. We're family-owned, family-run, 3 generations strong.
Come see the 2020 Hondas. There's something for every lifestyle.
Whatever you're looking for in your next car, you'll find it at Ralph Honda.
When I sprained my left knee, they did so much to help me at
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
With 20 locations throughout Monroe and Livingston County, pain relief is never more than minutes away. Same-day appointments available. Most insurance accepted. Call 1-888-PT-ROCHS.
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
Hi, my name is Henry, and I want to welcome you to Batavia Downs Gaming. We want you to love it, not just like it here. We went to our customers and asked them what we can do better. You said you wanted a hotel, so we built one. More and better food. We did that too. A separate place to smoke and play? We even did that. Batavia Downs Gaming and Hotel is the right size with the right people in the right location. Batavia Downs Gaming. Come here to dine, stay, and play.
We're in Overtime here. This is Scott Pitoniak, author and, of course, longtime sports writer, sports columnist for the DNC, and now, of course, and for several years, the Rochester Business Journal. I'm Dan Borrello. Thank you for joining us at Overtime. It's brought to you by Chevrolet, Bob Johnson Chevrolet. Rochester Chevy owners know Bob Johnson Chevrolet is the place to bring your vehicle for all your service needs. Their ASE certified technicians can take care of everything from routine oil changes and tire rotations to full system overhauls. Check out their online service specials and then make your appointment today. Bob Johnson Chevrolet, Ridge Road West in Greece. Let's talk some baseball.
All right.
Let's do this. I know you were at Cooperstown a few months back. Let's get right into it. Yanks and Astros tied at 1. Last night, you knew the game was over when you went to bed because who was on the hill, Scott?
Happ.
Jay Happ, of course.
Yeah, I watched the Yankees at bat, and it was by that time we were a little bit past 1 o'clock. I had to get up to go to do my work at 7 o'clock. So I go like, I'm going to bed because I know this is not going to end well.
Right.
And it didn't end well. I just didn't have a lot of faith in Happ. I realized what Aaron Boone was doing. He had gone through his bullpen, and now he was figuring like, well, if this goes on for a while, I've got a guy who's a starter who could maybe do some multiple innings and so forth. But I just didn't think it was going to last much longer. So as it turned out, when I woke up in the morning, I was right.
Yeah, Carlos Correa, of course, and the game ends. And, Jay Happ has given up a lot of bombs this past year. The Yankees just couldn't hit. They did score on Verlander, of course. Justin Verlander is a heck of a postseason pitcher, but Aaron Judge was able to smack a 2-run bomb. Chad Green took over for James Paxton. Now, I don't know how you feel about managers nowadays because they're answering to the GM upstairs. So it's a lot of color by number. It's almost like the manager's like an app that the GM is pushing on his phone. Boone decided to take Paxton out. Big Maple. He's had a great season, but he did not have a great game last night. Pulled him early, which was good. Chad Green retires 6 in a row. So you'd think, okay, he's going to send him out for the next thing. Instead, he sends out Ottavino, who struggled. Of course, he gives up a bomb, ties the game in his first at bat. So he was piecing it together last night. What are your thoughts on... I know that you weren't a big Cashman guy going into this season, but 30 guys in the DL and Giancarlo Stanton, who's now got a quad issue, go figure. He might not even play the rest of the postseason. You got to give Cashman credit for the way he's put together this roster and the way they've played this year.
Oh, without question. No, I mean, he's executive of the year as far as I'm concerned, and you can make a strong argument that Aaron Boone should be manager of the year, although I think Rocco Baldelli will get it.
From the Twins, right?
Yeah, from the Twins. No, I mean, who's Gio Urshela?
Right.
Who's Mike Taubman?
Luke Voigt last year.
Luke Voigt. I mean, to have, they set a record for the number of guys on, I used to call it the disabled list, but the
injured list.
And so did a fabulous job in coming up with the next man up. The Aaron Maben trade worked out extremely well.
Cameron Maben. I said that too.
Oh, my gosh. Oh,
I've
boy.
done that too.
Oh,
Aaron
wow.
Maben, who Scott calls the biggest bust in Bills history.
He is the biggest bust, yeah.
Over J.P. Lossman.
Yeah.
Let that sink in.
That was a Freudian slip.
Yes,
for
but
sure,
Cameron Maben did work out for the Yankees this year.
Yes, and so guy after guy, just when you thought it was all done, without question, Cashman has done a tremendous job. And, we'll see where this goes. I mean, Yankee fans are going to be disappointed if it's anything less than a World Series, at least an appearance. And I'm sure a lot of people were thinking, well, the Dodgers are out of the way now, so it's made your path clear. But I said before the season I thought the Astros were the best team.
I did too.
And I'm just, you got to be concerned when they can roll out 3 pitchers like they can. We saw Verlander last night, and Garrett Cole. It's going to be real interesting to see how this works out. I mean, he has just been extraordinary, and that might be just as the Verlander trade was the one that got them over the hump, a couple of years ago to win the World Series, the Astros. Maybe that's going to be the same case here with Cole. And remember, people were critical of Cashman not making the deal, not pulling a trigger. But I don't really necessarily blame him because, we saw what other teams were asking for,
right?
And I don't want to go there.
2 years in a row. I mean, the Pirates wanted they wanted Andujar for him, and he wasn't about to give it up. And of course, Andujar's done for the season, but he's got a lot of potential, And this year, those pitchers that the Yankees were asking for and those teams were demanding so much for, they didn't do much this year.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus Stroman. I mean,
no.
were you going to give up the farm for that?
No, of course not.
Let's be honest there.
They're not going to be desperate.
Yeah.
What they did this year with 30 guys in the disabled list has worked. This is how analytics can work when you have the best analytics that money can buy, best analytics team. And I'm talking about the guys upstairs. My thing is, though, if my father, he passed away 12 years ago, if he came back to watch today's Yankee game, he's like, Danny, what's this shift? Danny, what's this OPS stuff? It's a hard game to watch along and manage along in your head because you don't know what the manager has in that binder of his or on that tablet because he's getting his directions from the GM. Who's responsible?
Yeah, I think it is taken away somewhat from the enjoyment of the game. There's no question about that. And and again, this whole thing, I'm old, but I'm sorry, it gets after 1 o'clock, and the game's still dragging on here, and so I'm all for some really extraordinary changes in the game, you got to pitch to 3 guys unless it's the last out of the inning or whatever. I'm ready for this stuff because it's just become so specialized now. You come in, Dan, up, you're good at getting left-handed batters out in the 7th inning on Easter Sunday or something.
Right.
They've got it broken down to that point now.
Yes.
So I'm ready for some significant changes that will stop, this specialization where you got 13 pitchers in one game or whatever, for one team. It's ridiculous.
Meanwhile, on the flip side, Nats are up 2-0. Oh, yeah, Bryce Harper's not here. Remember when Barry Bonds finally retired? The Giants all of a sudden won 3 World Series. Remember when A-Rod left Seattle and all of a sudden they won 116 games? I mean, it's hysterical how a superstar who sucked all the oxygen out of a room. And look, Harper's a great ball player, no question. But the Phillies finished in 3rd place, and they were very close to finishing in 4th had the Mets gotten their act together this year. I mean, and you're talking about a team with the Nats that are 2-0, and they don't miss Bryce Harper at all right now.
No, they've got some really good young players. I mean, Soto is as good as it gets for young players, Juan Soto and stuff. So, and their pitching has been tremendous, and Strasburg is what everybody thought he would be. Stayed healthy enough, and their team, somebody was telling me today, the World Series is being played right now between the Astros and the Yankees. I said,
no, it's not.
You better not take Washington for granted.
Right.
You really shouldn't, with those pitchers that they can throw out, and with some of those young players, and the way everything is coming together for them at the right time.
By the way, the series isn't over either for St. Louis. I mean, teams have been down 2-0 before, and they've come back. Now, my issue with St. Louis, you and I talked about this on our old sports radio show, and nobody else talked about it nationally. Everyone wants to call Bill Belichick and the Patriots a bunch of cheaters. The St. Louis Cardinals broke into the Houston Astros database because one of their guys, Jeff Lunau, ended up becoming the GM of the Astros and built that team that won the World Series 2 years ago, built the team that's competing with the Yankees now. And 50 different occasions, the St. Louis Cardinals went into that database to scout their talent. The guy went to jail for it. He went to jail for this. Now the Cardinals, no big deal. It's baseball. Who cares? I mean, if that's not the ultimate form of cheating, I don't know what is. Yeah. This is bigger than Bobby Thompson or getting signals from the scoreboard. The shot heard around the world. This was like year-long cheating they were doing.
Yeah, and I think it's a stain, but it's interesting if you think about it, Dan, that this story had no legs.
Right.
I mean, nobody's talking.
Nobody talking about it.
Yeah.
They're still not talking about it.
Yeah. No, it's been completely forgotten.
But the talent that they procured are in the NLCS right now. Nobody wants to mention that.
Right.
Just blows my mind.
Right.
So let's get back to football. There's two cities right now are a little bit of dire straits. You got Dallas, whom we talked about, and you got the Cleveland Browns. Now the Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield, the circus. You have Odell Beckham Jr. People wanted to go back on Hard Knocks this year. I wish they had. I hope they do it next year. But you have a situation where, like you mentioned, Freddie Kitchens has got to be over his head. He wasn't even a coordinator. He was a running backs coach. But they hired him because, one, John Dorsey, the GM, has got a little bit of Tom Donahoe in him. He was forced out in Kansas City. Andy Reid was the decision maker. So now he's going to want his own puppet head coach. And so Greg Williams wasn't going to be that guy.
Right.
Todd Haley wasn't going to be that guy. So he hires Baker's guy. And Baker's guy isn't working for Baker. Yeah. Meanwhile, in Dallas, Jason Garrett's not finishing the job right now with Dak Prescott. And whether Jerry likes it or not, he's going to have to pay Dak because who else is available? Mm-hmm. You're not going to draft a kid. I have a theory. There's 3 guys who I think are going to be coaching these 2 teams. I think Jerry could go – follow me on this one. This is my cockamamie theory of the year. I think Jerry could go to Lincoln Riley for $10 million and say, you want to coach the Cowboys? Because I think Riley would let Jerry meddle. I think he would do it because, hey, look, I don't know defense or any of that stuff. You hire the defensive coordinator. I'll come in. I'll fix Dak. Or he could bring in Norv Turner. Look what he's done with Kyle Allen in Carolina. Mm-hmm. And I think that either those guys could coach in Cleveland, and so could the guy he'd let go, which would be Jason Garrett. Because let's be honest, if Jason Garrett gets fired by Dallas, where else is he coaching?
Yeah.
But a team that would need a head coach who they could control with a GM who's domineering, and that might be Cleveland.
Yeah, I just don't think that, in Cleveland he's earned the right to be domineering. You know what I mean? I agree with you with what happened in Kansas City. There's that feeling like, and I think the analogy with Tom Donahoe is good because, boy, when he got here, he was power hungry. And remember, Ralph gave him more power than he had given anybody.
He was the president.
Yeah, he goes and then that turned into a disaster. Because power can corrupt, and absolute power can corrupt absolutely. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I didn't like you say about Kitchens being Baker's choice and so forth. Why not just get an offensive coordinator.
Right.
Right. And that's it. But not a head coach. There's the Peter principle. I see it happen all the time. Through the years in the NFL, like great coordinators who cannot be head coaches.
Yeah, I think I think someday he could be, but he's like 5-10 years ahead of his time right now, and I don't mean the good way. I mean like he's a little premature right now to be a head coach.
Yeah.
But
I still think the Browns again. I think it could be a rough season. I wouldn't give up on the season yet, but I still think there's so much talent there. If you can get the coaching hire right, I do think they've got the potential to be a very, very good football team.
Oh, absolutely. They have the talent. They have the talent.
You
Both
know.
teams have the talent.
Right. Oh, yeah.
But somebody's got to come in. It's awful. Like you saw John Gruden come in with Tony Dungy's guys in Tampa Bay and end up, doing wonders. So, Scott, we're going to do overtime rules. I'm going to throw out a rule, and you tell me if you like it or not. You can agree, disagree. Overtime rule. I will believe Tom Brady is finished when you pull that Lombardi trophy, as I mentioned, out of his cold, dead hands. Everybody wants Tom Brady to be finished, and he still managed to throw for over 300 yards against the Giants. I'll tell you what, Bills fans, if you gave me a choice the rest of the season, you get Josh Allen or Tom Brady, I will take Tom Brady. I will give him Jim Kelly's number 12, and I think Kelly would hand him the jersey and the name off the Wall of Fame. He's not done yet. Stop with this Tom Brady is done stuff. He's not even Peyton Manning in Peyton Manning's final year. I mean, he's not what he was, but he's not bad at all. I don't know, Scott, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Until he's done, I'm not going there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, I think there has been decline. There's no question about it. And, we saw him against the Bills, like he just looked lost.
Mm-hmm.
He really looked lost. He's throwing the ball away early, like to the point where, like, is that intentional grounding? I mean, he was just totally flustered, and McDermott had his number, and Leslie Frazier and those guys. But I just can't say they're done until they're done. Until you can stick a fork in them,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going against them.
Overtime rules. We go through this every October. Baseball fans and football fans. My sport's better. Most of you like both sports, but I will say that I love both sports. You love both sports. There was a time where I preferred baseball over football. But for me, those days are long gone. Baseball, I got to tell you something. I have Dish Network. I don't have Yes Network, and I don't have SNY. That's a problem. That's a problem. You got to get your act together with this app, and you got to make this game universal. The NBA's doing it, and baseball somehow. I shouldn't have to go look for you. The NFL finds us. The NBA finds us. I got to go look for baseball, and I love baseball. That shouldn't be the case. That should tell you where baseball is on the map right now. And I think that Rob Manfred could turn it around. But we talked about these ideas when you and I did a show together on how to fix the game, and I don't think he's incorporated very many of them.
No, and again, this is the dessert of the year.
Yes.
This is like what you look forward to the most. And like I say, like I have no idea where I can find the games. I mean, you can't make it hard to go find the games at this time. They should be so accessible to you. And there was like with the the Yes Network and stuff, like the people subscribe to the Yes Network and like they can't get the game. They've watched 162 Yankee games throughout the year, and the playoffs come about, they can't get the station that has the Yankee game on.
Right.
I mean, come on. You got to be kidding.
One game it's MLB, one game it's ESPN, one game it's FS1, and it's just ridiculous.
Too confusing.
Overtime rules, NBA. You got to stop with the social justice warring if you're not going to allow a general manager to tweet for freedom in China. Just admit it. You're a business. Okay, I can live with that. We're a business. We're in China to make money, so we want to keep our mouths shut. But then you can't come back to the United States and rip on the American government for not doing what you want them to do when you won't stick up for the Chinese people who need freedom. It's a joke that you told Daryl Morey to keep his mouth shut. You apologized, but you didn't, but you did. I don't believe a word out of your players' mouths anymore, because if you don't want to stand up for the freedom worldwide, then you can't stand up for freedom here in this country. It's not fair anymore.
I agree. I agree. It's a joke. That I looked at that statement that was released, and I go, oh my gosh!
And it was
who
a
wrote
statement.
This? Like it's all over the place. It was really walking on eggshells and stuff. It was interesting, but I don't know. It's a mess.
And finally, overtime rules. Can we stop overreacting every Monday? Every Monday. This guy's washed up. This guy's great. This guy's winning the Super Bowl. This guy's toast. It's over. Can we stop, please? As I alluded to about a year ago, Dallas was done, and Marcus Mariota had finally arrived. He was benched yesterday. Can we just let this thing play out? Patrick Mahomes is going to be just fine. He's had a couple of rough games. Kansas City's still going to win that division. They're still going to be there toward the end. And guess what? So the New England Patriots, okay? So can we stop writing people off week after week? Yeah, Tom Brady had a rough game against the Bills for once. Let's see if it happens later on this season.
Well, overreaction. It's not just week to week anymore. It's tweet to tweet.
Yes!
I mean, it's a joke now. It's like, this guy's a bum. This guy's the greatest. This guy's a bum. Just look at these these tweets during the course of a game and go like, what game are you watching? Like, let the game play out. I mean, it's ridiculous.
As
But
Chris Berman said, that's why they play the games.
That's right.
And so let's let the season finish. So, Scott, thank you so much.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
This guy was my priest, my pastor, and my rabbi all rolled up into one those 2 years we did a show together. I was going through some tough times, and he helped me through it like a dad. So I want to promote his book, Forever Orange, Syracuse University. It's available, Syracuse Press, and at Barnes & Noble. And, of course, the paperback version with new chapters, Jukebox Hero, the Lou Graham biography written with Scott Pitoniak. Scott, it was a pleasure as always. Thank you so much.
I had a lot of fun. Thanks, Dan.
No problem. For Gary Sadak, the grandfather / godfather, who's now on steroids. And Rock Sports Network, I'm Dan Borrello. This is Scott Pitoniak. The Ozone Show is coming up next. Tough Thursday. Tough Thursday, guys. But they're going to try to explain what happened and try to look forward to Saturday. Thank you so much for joining us. Ozone's coming up next. This is Rock Sports Network, rocksportsnetwork.com.